Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to go back in time a little bit like we often do on my channel, and we're going to go to 1986, and we're going to look at the third edition of Gamma World. This would be the last rule set of Gamma World that would be a boxed set. So there's the front of the box, and there's the back of the box. So 1986 sees third edition Gamma World come out. This edition came out shortly after the success of the Marvel Superheroes game for Marvel. That was, or for not for Marvel, but for TSR, and that came out in about '84 and really got popular in '85, '86. So what they decided they would do is kind of use the same system that they were using for the Marvel Superheroes in this edition of Gamma World. So instead of throwing D20s, we were throwing percentage dice among other dice. And I can tell you that didn't land with us. I know a D20 is nothing but a 5% increment percentage dice, but the chart and the way this played and some of the rules editing left us a little cold when we tried this one. Bought it, was excited, read it, found the writing to be a little stiffer, a little more serious. I think they were trying to make this like a legitimate science fantasy role playing game instead of the kind of out there versions that first and second edition were. And the new grimmer tone didn't land with me either. So there were a few things. And that's one of the reasons why I held off on doing this, taking a look at this for so long. I try to be positive whenever I can on the channel, and unfortunately, some of the stuff comes up that I just have no choice, and I have to review it because it's the third in sequence. But I was not a huge fan of Gamma World third edition. I'm going to go through the box contents, and you're going to see what you got for your, I think, $15. Yes, $15 right there. This guy cost $15 in 1986. So we're going to take a look at what you got inside. So there's the fine box. Then first thing you got, of course, was the epic rule book. How to play Gamma World. And more importantly, how to play this version of Gamma World. They recycled some artwork. One of my favorite pieces of artwork right there. The batters or whatever they are on the half track. I always love that piece of artwork. And the original design was James Ward, David James Ritchie, and Gary Jacquet. And the new design was by James Ward. And like I said, I think they were trying to go a little more serious with this and a little less gung-ho and wahoo, and it kind of showed. Also, this paper was very, very thin. As such, this has never been wet, but it's all wrinkled like it had been wet. Just not a real good... just the quality wasn't really there. This is around the time TSR was starting to have some serious financial problems. And I don't know, just this one didn't land. So there we go. We have the action table, the ACT. The action table is how to use the table. Basically, you throw a percentage to see if you in combat, if you struck something in combat, and the higher the percentage, the better you do on it, and you get slightly different effects. The problem was it kind of became Chartmaster. You had to constantly be referring to other charts and other parts of the book. You couldn't just go. Combat really slogged down. And then we get experience, rank, and talents, which is something they added here. I'm not looking to go up in character classes or anything in Gamma World. I'm looking to just play. I'm not going to thumb through each and every page of this book, but like I said, the writing got a little grimmer for my taste, and the book itself, the rule book, the paper is way thin. If you could feel this paper, it's very thin, and it got a little, I don't know, it just felt cheap. We still get the various mutations. Always love the mutations in Gamma World. And then we got a character sheet we could Xerox on the back. By this time, I was working in an office, so I had access to a Xerox machine, so I was able to copy some character sheets. And there's the action table on the back. We're going to take a look at this guy again. So the way this worked is if you ended up in the red area, then yay, you avoided it or whatever. Or if you were down here, it was slammed. Average, you'd end up stunned. I don't know. I'm not a fan of this. I didn't like the action table. I felt that the action table kind of took over the entire game, which was unfortunate. With this box set, we also got the adventure book. Dun dun, come on. There's the adventure book. The adventure book gives us a nice adventure. This is another, you start out in your village and you have the rite of passage. That became kind of a familiar thing in Gamma World. And I always got the idea they just kind of published this one as kind of a cash grab. There's not a lot that was new or exciting in this one, in any of this edition of Gamma World, in my opinion. And a lot of recycled art, just, I don't know, more recycled art on the reference book. The reference book, and then the editing of this left a little bit to be desired too, because some of the reference stuff that you would look up would reference things that weren't called out in the rules. So you'd end up having to house rule a lot of stuff on the fly. So the reference book gives us our various creatures. We can have androids. This is basically the monster manual. A lot of this stuff is translatable to the earlier editions of Gamma World. But again, just recycled art, thin pages. We get a nice look at some medical equipment and then some talents. So not a lot there. We got a nice fold-out map. But again, just a lot of this just recycled. We're in Pittsburgh. And then we get a nice area map of Pittsburgh. And then we get a map of Gamma Terra, which is the United States, after the disaster, after Gamma World has happened. Gamma World, for anybody that doesn't know, the world has been destroyed in some type of apocalypse, the Shadow War. And this depends on which edition you're playing. But the Shadow War has happened, and you are playing a survivor in the ruins. The original one, you were just kind of a survivor in the ruins, just kind of stumbling through the ruins, and there was no real community that you were part of or anything like that. And we all kind of embraced that. And then the second edition, they started giving a little bit more background and depth, and felt a little more like D&D. This edition just felt a lot like the superhero game. It didn't really flavor Gamma World all that much, in my opinion. Then we got this fine rules supplement. And this was, I bought a later print of this, apparently, because this quantifies a lot of the rules. So clarifications and additions. The earliest versions were loaded with different problems, and this book was put in the later editions to go ahead and offset that a little bit. There's some stuff in here, there's plenty of stuff you can use for this. And they published 5 modules that went with this. They were GW 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And those modules are actually really good. I will take a look at those on the channel sometime. But they were the best part of 3rd edition, in my opinion. I have used the modules for other edition of Gamma World play, but I've never played the modules for 3rd. You get a nice little supplement here that gives you a look at some of the player characters, some of the types you can be, and then a little profile on the back. So these cards were nice. And then you get the weapons table, the defenses, the combat modifiers. And then there's the action table again. This is kind of the set piece of the whole edition. And then the one thing they did do in this one that I absolutely applauded. Anybody that knows my channel knows I'm a sucker for a GM screen. Well, here we go. This came in the box. That was a nice touch. I didn't have to spend an extra $12 or whatever to get my hands on a nice GM screen. It's set up, it was a 3-fold, and it had information on front and back. And here we have, the reaction cards, everything's color-coded, action table, and then biological injuries, special injuries. And this is on a thicker cardstock. This was actually a pretty nice edition. This is one of the things I did like about this edition. And then, of course, the last thing in the box, there were a couple of dice in here that are long since mixed in with my collection. The last thing we got was the plug for the Role-Playing Game Association, the RPGA network, which TSR put in most of their stuff. So there you have it. So that's a quick look at Gamma World 3rd edition. I'm really in a Gamma World mood lately. I wanted to read over some stuff, and I thought I'd take a look at this on the channel. I'm going to look at Gamma World 4th edition next, which ended up being my personal favorite. And we're going to take a look at that a lot more in depth. But that's it for today on page 121. That's Gamma World 3rd edition. Let me know what you think. Maybe I'm 100% wrong, and I was just doing it wrong, and it's the greatest edition there ever was. Or maybe it kind of did fall down and was kind of a cash grab after the cash grab that was Unearthed Arcana in D&D, and the quality that that book had. Even Oriental Adventures didn't have great quality in some of the printings of that book. This one felt that it following the same trend. It just didn't seem to be all new and fresh. It seemed to be a lot of recycled. It seemed a little grimmer to me, and I didn't like the departure from the D20 system. But that's all me. Like I said, I could be wrong. I try to be positive on the channel. Every once in a while, I run across something where I have to give my honest opinion. So there you have it. Let me know what you thought, and I'll see you next time on page 121.